Hello everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lena. And I typically make college and book related content here on YouTube. I will not be in school for this next 4-month stint or so most of my content will probably be book centered. So if you have specific college related things, of course feel free to ask them. I'm willing to do a video if I think it's necessary, but I am not in college, so I'll be doing more non-college related things. Today I will be sharing with you all my December wrap-up. I read 8 books in the month of December. The first book I actually don't have with me because I checked it out of my library, and it was The City of Brass. The City of Brass follows the story of our main character, Nari, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, as she accidentally summons the wrong Jinn or something along those lines. There's different names for it, and then together they have to embark on this quest to Dababad, and this is the City of Brass, and there she meets a prince who is struggling with his father's very brutal and awful regime, and this forms different friendships and different relationships and tension. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I knew that it was a pretty well-liked fantasy book, and I knew a lot of people had been talking about it. That's why I initially checked it out. Unfortunately, I can't really see myself continuing the rest of the series. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I had some problems with it, and just overall, the book didn't really connect with me, and I didn't feel super interested in it. Main character, like Nari, I thought she was an interesting character to have. I really enjoyed her different traits, and I thought that she was a very convincing and realistic character to follow, and I also thought there were some sweet sibling moments. However, I found all romantic relationships completely unbelievable. I didn't get them. I didn't feel any chemistry. They seemed to be coming out of nowhere. Some people have hinted that they're abusive, and I'm not an expert on that, but I can definitely see why people are saying. Just also, like, the world kind of remained confusing to me, and I don't know if that was a comprehension issue for me. I really liked the beginning of the book, and I thought it had so much potential with some of the historical context and aspects, but the rest of the book just kind of fell flat for me, and overall I was disappointed with it and probably won't finish the rest of the series. The next book I read in the month of December was actually in my reading vlog, so if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check that video out. I will have it linked down below. But I finished The Wise Man's Fear, long time coming, so glad I finished it. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I'm going to be pretty brief in what I thought about this book because you can check out the reading vlog for more details, but this is the second book in the King Killer Chronicles, Day 2. The series is supposedly told over the span of 3 days. I really enjoyed the first book. This second book picks up right where the first book left off. We are back with Quoth as he is continuing to tell his story. There are many of the same characters are still involved, lots of adventure, the plot is excellent. I don't want to give too much away. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because I really enjoyed Quoth again. I think he is a really great main character to read from. Is he a good person? Absolutely not, but I enjoy reading from his perspective. I also enjoyed many aspects of the world, and the plot was very well done. I was impressed that this is such a stellar second book. However, I talk about this a little more. I think there's some issues, and the book starts to turn into this like young adolescent male just like obsessed with sex. The third book I read in the month of December was Transcendent Kingdom by Yana Jesse. This is also in that same reading vlog. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I initially gave this book to my sister as a present, and then I stole it back from her so I could read it. This book follows the story of Gifty, who is working on her PhD. She's studying mice and reward-seeking behavior, trying to figure out if she can alter that or control it in any sort of way. This is directly related to her own life, as her brother struggled with addiction, and her mother really is struggling with mental illness as well. She struggles with her upbringing, the religion, how she was raised, what she's experiencing now, her life now, the troubles, and the very, very real and present issues that she's facing as she continues to do these experiments. I loved this book, 5 out of 5 stars. I just could see myself so much in Gifty, and I'm not sure if that's just the work of amazing writing. This book is amazing writing, but I could just see myself so strongly and firmly in Gifty. I really appreciated the religious discussion within this book because I thought it was incredibly well done and powerful. It had so much nuance to it and so much to think about, which I really enjoyed as well. It was just overall a really well written book, beautiful story. This is the second book I've read by Ya Jessie. I love this book even more than Homegoing. I'm a Ya Jessie fan. I'll be reading any and all books that she puts out. And I hit my reading slump. That was a great time, and the way I got out of my reading slump was actually rereading a series because I was gifted the third book in the series for my birthday, so I decided to start rereading the series. This is something I do every winter, and so here we are. I reread A Winter's Promise. This is my third time rereading it. I love this series so much. Ophelia is one of my favorite characters. This book follows Ophelia, who is a young woman on this arc called Anima. The world was split into 21 different arcs, and she is on the one called Anima. She is betrothed to a man named Thorn who lives on a different arc, which is called the Pole. She is forced to go with him to the Pole. She does not want to leave her life on Anima because she has her particular powers and talents, which differ on each pole depending on each family which lives on each pole. It's a little confusing, but I promise it's not when you're reading it. She doesn't want to leave Anima because that's where she fits in, kind of. She at least feels comfortable with her powers there and has her own place. So when she goes to the pole, she has to completely relearn everything and deal with this new betrothal that she is in, as well as the fact that this is not merely a betrothal. There is far more going on that she is just beginning to grasp and understand. I love this book. As you can probably tell, there's lots of court politics in here, which I really, really enjoyed. I pick up on so much every time I reread it, all the little hints and connections and clues. That is something that Christelle Debeau is so good at. World with the different arcs and the different families and the different powers and the descriptions, just so good, so powerful. So after I finished this book, 5 out of 5 stars in case you couldn't guess, I picked up the second book, which is The Missing of Claire de Lune. I actually, turns out, already read this book earlier this year because it is my winter read, so this is my second time reading in 2020. I had not realized that I had read it so soon or close to each other. I initially gave this book 4 out of 5 stars the first time I read it, but this time I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Things have definitely heated up in this book. Ophelia is much more aware of what's going on. I'm not going to spoil anything, but she is much more clear as to what her role might be, could be, should be. And she also, her and Thorne's relationship is starting to change a little bit. That's hinted at in the previous book. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars initially because I wasn't sure how I felt about the whole God aspect. And I also thought the translation was weak at some points, but I moved it up to 5 out of 5 stars because, again, Christelle Debeau and her connections and plot and pacing was so stellar, especially in this second book. It's great to have a second book that's just as good as the first one. I'm also just a sucker for Thorne. I can't help it. I really, really like him as a character. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really, really like him, so that's why I enjoyed this book as well. Now we get to the third book, which is the book I was reading for the first time. This was the book I got for my birthday, and this is definitely a controversial one. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars because there are many aspects in this book that are problematic, to say the least. So I'm going to start with the positives and then go into the more negatives. Positives, I thought there was great plot aspects to this. Continue to see this great plot development, character development. Sometimes predict what's going to happen, but there's so much that I feel like Christelle Debeau has room to explore and try as she continues to expand this world. It's not confusing. I know exactly what's going on. There's also many different subplots interweaving. I thought that was incredibly strong as well. I continued to really enjoy Ophelia as a character. I finally got what I wanted. I'm not going to spoil that, but I finally got what I wanted. However, The reason why this book is so problematic, people are DNFing it all the time, is because the way this book talks about disability as well as race, it's difficult to tell if it's a translation issue or if it is a actual, this is what Christelle DeBow wrote. But basically they use the R word multiple times, and that is just not a word that's really should be used in the lexicon anymore. It's just not a word to be used anymore, and it's used multiple times. The way that individuals' disabilities are described and presented within the book is really, really difficult to read. I will say that by the time you finish the book, you realize why they were described that way, why that happened, because again, it's Christelle DeBow back at it with her connections and deeper subplots, but that doesn't excuse it, that doesn't make it right. So that's why there's no way I could give this above 3 out of 5 stars. I also just think descriptions of people was really offensive or racist or ableist. There were issues with that. So I'm disappointed. I hope this does not continue into the 4th book. I'm really hoping it was a translation issue and that's not actually what this book is. If this had been the first book in the series, there's no way I would be continuing it. I'm continuing it because I love the series, and I am on the fence as to whether that's a problem in and of itself. But I'm trying to figure out right now if it's a translation issue or if that's actually what Christelle DeBow wrote and meant. Because I've had issues with Hildegard Searle, who's the person who translates this. I've had issues with her translations in the previous 2 books, so I'm not sure what it is. That is a long-winded synopsis of those books. Overall, I am planning on reading the 4th and final book. I love the way the covers look, the spines look, the dust jackets look, the actual books look. I love the physicalness of them, and I'm hoping that the 4th book does not let me down. But the 7th book I read in the month of December was An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. This is my second Margaret Rogerson book. This is her more well-known and I think better reviewed book. I read Sorcery of Thorns last year, and that book really came through for me. I read it in the right time at the right place. It really connected with me. I loved Elizabeth as a main character. This book didn't do it so much for me, but I could see that this book might do it for me at a different point in my life or for different people. The book follows Isabel, who is a really, really talented painter. She is human, but she works for the Fae. The Fae are obsessed with things that humans create. They call it the craft. So that's like cooking, sewing, painting, anything like that. But she is assigned to do the portrait of Rook, who is the Autumn Prince, and accidentally paints eternal sadness, or what is it? Mortal sorrow into his eyes, which starts to ruin his reputation. He kidnaps her and says that you need to stand trial for what you have done, and then it just spirals into all these other issues. But it's not really all these other issues, because the point of this book is romance. Like, you know that when you pick it up. I knew it when I picked it up. I just didn't realize how romance-centered it was. Honestly, the plot could matter less. So this is the kind of book that you should read if you really want romance. You want something that's not really believable, but nice to read at the same time. I just didn't find it that amazing, that stellar. The world was kind of the characters were okay. It was definitely love at first sight. Really enjoyed Sorcery of Thorns though, and I will be holding on to this book, so when I know I need some lighthearted romance in my life, I will know what book to turn to. 8th book, or the next book I read in the month of December, was The Office of Historical Corrections. This is a collection of short stories as well as a novella at the end. I got this as my final book of the month for this year, December 2020. I was on the fence about getting it because I'm not really a short stories person, but I'm here to tell you that if it's the right short story, it's great. Danielle Evans really killed it with this collection. All of the stories were so strong. They had so much to think about, to ponder over, I just wanted to talk about them every time I finished a new one. I felt like I needed to talk to someone about it. They were so emotionally fraught, challenging to read at times. They were brutal and heart-wrenching, but also beautiful at the same time. There was some really great exploration about present-day issues. I am so glad I read this book. I have learned so much within the past year, and that's not an excuse. That doesn't make it okay that I am late to the game in learning. I'm so glad I finished this year with this specific book because it really made me feel as though I've actually come somewhere with my reading this year, both in topics, authors, and now the type of writing, short stories. This book just does not let you hide from the truth. It's all right there. It's so good. I highly recommend it. Even just like reading a short story from this collection is definitely worth it. This is something I hope to continue into the new year, the year we are in, 2021. Who knew it would ever come, because 2020 lasted forever, but that is something I hope to continue, is reading books that are so different from my own perspective, reading own voices, reading from perspectives that I was not taught about in school, trying to push myself in all ways possible. That's something I want to continue, especially when I'm not in college for the next 4 months, because that is my time to read. But those are all the books I read in the month of December. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you all next week.